You learned more than you ever wanted to know about GIA in that last session. And then in this session, we're really excited to be welcoming some partners from our consulates, embassies, also known as MOFA. We use all of these things interchangeably. All right. Well, it looks like we've got most people back from break. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you today Matthew Klein, who is the JET Program and MEXT Scholarship Coordinator from the Consulate General of Japan in Houston. And we are also joined by Laura Schaefer from the JET Program Coordinator in the Atlanta JET Desk. I love the JET Desk, is such a great term, from the Consulate General of Japan in Atlanta. I really appreciate you guys being here and having some JET coordinators to talk with. So thank you so much for taking some time out on your Sunday to join our conference this year.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, very good. So I wanted to get started today. Feel free to give an introduction. If you guys were JETs yourself, you know that we always have to start with what prefecture and what years you are. If you are not a JET, then that is totally fine. Some of our favorite people are non-JETs. We're big friends of SO-JETs here, or faux JETs, FOJs, whatever it is that we call them in our own chapters. So feel free to give a little introduction about your history, how long you've been working at your consulate, and anything else that you want to kick off our conversation with today. Laura, why don't we start with you?
All right. Perfect. Sure. So hi, everybody. My name is Laura Schaefer. I am the current JET Program Coordinator at the Japanese Consulate in Atlanta. I took over this position right in the middle of the pandemic in December 2020. And first on my plate was to reach out to my local JET alumni chapter, the JET Alumni Association of the Southeast, to see if anyone was willing to jump into the deep end with me doing virtual interviews for the 2021 JET program for the first time. No precedent, no structure, just a lot of we're doing it live energy. And I'm an alumni of the program, the JET program. I was an ALT in Yonabaru-cho, Okinawa-ken for 2 years from 2013 to 2015. I worked in a middle school, and those 2 years were incredibly formative for me. It solidified my goals to work in US-Japan relations, and in whatever shape that took. Coming back, I did some interpreting work and then found myself at the consulate, where I've had a hand in quite a few roles before taking on the JET coordinator position.
Fantastic. Thanks, Laura. Matt, please go ahead.
Yes. Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm Matthew Klein. I am the JET coordinator and MEXT scholarship coordinator here at the Consulate General of Japan in Houston. I also am a pandemic era coordinator. I joined in June 2020, so really right when everything had just started. So it's been a really kind of unconventional couple of years, and this year is really the first year to be going back to the full in-person, full cooperation, normal cycle from.
Got a little slowness on Matt's side, Matthew. Uh-oh. We'll give Matt's computer connection a minute to work itself out, see if we can get him back. And in the meantime, Laura, I wanted to kind of pick up on something that you had said about serving multiple roles in the consulate before you made it to JET coordinator. So can you give us a general overview of what it is that the consulate does, with a focus particularly on the JET program, but also other programs that the consulate is also responsible for outside of JET?
Sure. So the JET program part of the consulate is part of the some different consulates have different structures, but at least at my consulate, we're part of the culture and information section. And that's the section that's involved with education towards like the community, running the JET program and the MEXT scholarships. I'm also the MEXT scholarship coordinator. We handle the social media outreach, and we have a hand in a lot of different things. It's also sometimes called the public relations department. But whenever people ask me about, my job or like, consulate general, I mean, that sounds important. I don't know what that does. I tell them that it's a branch of the Japanese diplomatic mission to the United States. It offers government services to Japanese citizens who are residing within its jurisdiction, and also visa services for travelers to Japan. It also has other departments that are dedicated to the establishment, maintenance, and strengthening of strong ties with the community, similarly to how my department works, the Culture and Information Department. But it can also take various forms such as funding and hosting cultural events, making networking connections with business leaders, and also having diplomats meet with local governing bodies. And all of these help to maintain and strengthen Japan's diplomatic ties with its jurisdiction.
That's quite a lot of duties that the consulate is working on. Thank you for sharing that list with us. Now we know when we reach out to our consulate and it takes a day or two to get an answer back, like, oh goodness, you're probably running around after diplomats.
Yeah, if it's in spring, it should be like, oh, are there cherry blossom festivals happening? Ah, I see.
Well, I do also want to give a shout out to, like, not only have you guys volunteered your Sunday to talk with us, but you are in the middle of JET recruiting season, which is kind of like, your Super Bowl, as it were. So with that in mind, first, Matt, I want to give you the opportunity to finish your introduction now that you've been able to rejoin us. And then if you'd like to kind of kick us off with a little bit about JET recruiting and what you guys do during the JET recruiting season, as well as the tie-in with the JET alumni, how you either work with your JET alumni. I know those relationships are different from consulate to consulate. So whether you do work closely with your chapter or you do not work closely with your chapter, then daydream what your ideal relationship with your chapter would be. Not to put any chapters on the spot out there. Matt, please.
Yes. So I don't know where exactly my introduction cut off, but again, I was in Niigata Prefecture until 2019, and then came back, did some translation work before coming to the consulate. Okay, and then to move on to the recruiting topic, yes, recruiting is one of our main events here with the JET program coordination on the state side. Of course, every cycle starts with recruiting applications, and we do need to get the word out. The JET program does have a wonderful brand, and it does seem to kind of propagate itself. But we try to really cover the main areas in our jurisdiction and work with our university partners and really through any kind of Japanese cultural events to promote the program and make sure that the message, the branding stays strong. So here in Houston, again, we're Texas-Oklahoma region. It's a really, really wide geographic area. So, we can't be taking day trips to cover the whole area, flying around that area by ourselves. So we do highly rely on our alumni across that area. So our relationship, typically, I'll work with the president, with the vice president, treasurer, to try to get an idea of who might be interested in helping with either information sessions or career fairs at different universities. Of course, if we have alumni in those places, it makes it much easier to coordinate. We do have a lot of alumni in study abroad offices, international offices at cities in our area. So we do try to kind of prioritize those connections. But yeah, we'll work with the leadership, try to get a feel for who's been active, who might be interested, if any new people have come in. One of the real challenges of coordinating and using the JET alumni are that we don't really have that clear image of who's coming in every year and who's moving into our area. So it does require a lot of open communication between ourselves and the JET AA chapters. But yes, generally we work with the leadership, but then also we do here in the Texas-Oklahoma region again, we use the Facebook as kind of the main gathering place. So I personally will post there just a general call to the public of our JET chapter, and try to take information if anybody is in one of those areas, especially outside of Houston. You know, we have a strong presence in Houston, but across Texas, across Oklahoma, we try to gather volunteers, and then either we will attend events with our alumni, or in some cases, we do try to send alumni as the main representative. So we can ship, we can ship all the table goods for the career fairs, the pamphlets. We provide the information, all the talking points. So really, anywhere we have alumni, we try to reach out to them, and we try to spread our message that way. And
Got you back this time.
I'm popping in and out. Yeah. So this year's been a learning experience for me, coming from the online recruiting, going back into the in-person recruiting. So it's been a bit difficult to organize everything on the right timeline, but I really have been heavily helped by our alumni this year, meeting up in, across Texas, having people host events in Oklahoma. So yeah, we're really grateful. And I think ideally, if we could have kind of a continually updated list of alumni volunteers who might be interested, especially if they're in place at schools. One thing that was really an odd experience, we went to Texas A&M in College Station, one of the largest schools in our region, not very far from Houston. And after doing an information session, after doing the career fair there, we had a lunch with the Japanese professors and with an alumni volunteer. And from the alumni, I actually heard that there are 3 or 4 other alumni in their study abroad office doing very similar work. And we didn't have any record of them. I didn't know to reach out to them. Yeah, I think really just taking advantage and being aware of the talent, the people, the experience that's out there. That's the kind of biggest issue for us.
Excellent, Matthew. Laura, I want to invite you to add any additional comments that may be different from your experience, your relationship with your chapter. Matthew started to get into some great commentary on issues, just challenges that we have trying to work together with the chapter. So any challenges that you've experienced or have been able to work through as you're collaborating with the alumni on JET recruitment?
Yeah, I was about to jump in and say, that's also just number 1 on my list is like updated contact information. And I mean, with communication with my local chapter, I know that that's probably like one of the most difficult aspects of it is maintaining that connection with all of the members, and then having that grassroots for people who are coming from outside the jurisdiction in so that they know to update their information. Yeah, but I mean, it would be so great to have updated contact information. Like I've had the same experience as Matthew, like going to places to recruit and meeting up with people who said, "Oh, I'm an alumni of the JET program." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." And it would have been great to know. And because for that, we love to have our JET alumni come to events and speak on their experiences in Japan. So it's kind of mixing a little bit of like, common issues and what I would an ideal relationships, but I would also love to have like a regular, because for us, we have a main, we have recruiting, we have volunteers for interviews, and then we have volunteers to present pre-departure Q&A sessions, to have like maybe the JET coordinators have a set meeting, like even if it's annual, even if it's quarterly, to go through maybe like the nitty-gritties of that, and putting forth names of who might present on those things. And I have tried to establish, I think we have established like a meeting before specific like large events were going to happen. Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to add in there is having for having more than just like email contacts of just like us reaching out to the chapter and saying, hey, we need volunteers. I would like to have like a mutual relationship.
This is a perfect lead in, Laura. I'll invite you to speak first, then have Matt add on to what is it outside of the JET recruiting season? So you're alluding to other events where alumni can really lend a helping hand to you, or from our perspective, we're always looking for ways to be involved and represent JET Alumni Association that doesn't require us to do all of the heavy lifting alone. So it sounds like there's some other non-recruiting opportunities for the consulate and the chapters or individual alumni to work together. Can you give some examples of what those might be and how our alumni community can get involved in those?
Definitely. So in addition to recruiting, I mean, I came into this position right before interviews. I guess maybe my view is a little bit biased, but most important, at least for me, is to have volunteers to assist with interviewing with for new potential JET participants. And it's a mutual thing where the volunteers come in and help us interview, and then once the JETs are ready to leave, I believe it was our past practice, before such events were canceled by the pandemic, we would invite all of the alumni who participated in interviews, who helped do presentations and Q&As for the JETs pre-departure. We would have them all come to a reception where they would see the JETs off. And we also, a consulate, I don't believe we've done it in the past, but I would love to do in the future, when JETs come back from Japan, we have a reception for them as well. And that's a networking opportunity for them. And I would love to open that up to JET alumni as well, who are already back in the United States. Networking for them, as well as interaction with, the new JET alumni.
Fantastic. Matt, do you have anything you'd like to add? I'm sorry, Matt. My brother's name is Matt. I apologize, Matthew. Please go ahead.
Actually, I prefer Matt, but I'm in kind of that dual name zone here. So either one is perfectly fine. Yeah, I think Laura's covered a lot of it. Of course, those kind of set JET cycle events. We talked about recruiting in depth earlier, but also the interviews, of course. We really do rely on our alumni and also our academic contacts. We really can't handle the load. We do completely require assistance. So that is all. You were talking about the burden of planning, the burden of organizing. So we are here for that. We're happy to organize those events, those functions. The main thing that we ask of the alumni is for their time, because coming to our area, we're glad to give you a small token honorarium, but we know that as working professionals, we're not really giving you a large compensation. So we do really appreciate that volunteering of your time and your effort for that. But yeah, beyond that, Q&A, pre-departure orientation, the returning JET reception, those are all kind of set events that we would love to invite alumni to and have them present. Laura had mentioned earlier that the alumni, the main thing that alumni bring to the table is their experience, right? We always talk about every situation is different. JETs are all across Japan in all sorts of situations. So having alumni to speak about those experiences and being able to share those experiences really does kind of enrich all of our activities, because here's we do get kind of focused and siloed in the nitty-gritty of the program guidelines, the application requirements, those type of technical details. And we can't speak for everybody who's been on JET as far as the possible experiences and really wonderful benefits of that kind of grassroots international exchange. So the alumni are our shining stars for really being able to share those experiences and also kind of, cut loose from the program details that we are so focused on. And then this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the other place where alumni may be able to get very involved with our consulate is particularly for kind of later career alumni who are involved in those careers in either academics, in government offices, in businesses that are related to Japanese companies, Japanese, US-Japan relations. Really, the tasks, the duties that we carry out at the consulate, all of those political economic missions and the grassroots cultural exchange, we would love to have alumni join those sessions as speakers at receptions, helping to even to invite the consulate to speak at your organization. I know here in Houston with our current Consul General, Consul General Murabayashi, we are very, very interested in getting out and kind of holding workshops, holding sessions, speaking at schools, at businesses, really kind of bringing Japan to the people in our area. So if you're able to invite us, we would love to try to accommodate that as long as there's, lead time for us to get the planning and everything ready. Yeah, we would love to really connect with JETs and carry on that kind of grassroots connection between US and Japan.
Oh, I'm hearing a very excellent collaboration opportunity for chapters in the consulate there. In our last 3 minutes or so, Laura, I want to open the floor to you in terms of other opportunities, just unique opportunities where JETs can be involved, JET alumni can be involved that are not necessarily specifically tied to the JET Alumni Association.
Yeah, so for our consulate specifically, we also have events like networking events that we host, like maybe at our residence, where we are always looking for speakers and people who can attest to their experience in Japan and their experience as they have come back to the United States. Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm parroting Matt a little bit, but to be speakers and maybe volunteers at other cultural events that are happening in the local community. Like, for example, in Atlanta, we have like Atlanta Japan Fest. We have most recently, the MLK Center has been doing an international festival. They're trying to make it a yearly thing, and having volunteers who can speak about their experience there too is a great help for us as well, because like Matthew said, we're good. We can do like the heavy lifting of organizing and getting things together. But what we really lack is oftentimes is manpower, and just having enough mouths to talk to the people who are coming to us. Yeah, so volunteering your time and your experience is definitely the most valuable things that we see in JET alumni.
Fantastic. I think that dovetails, I hope that you two have the opportunity to stay and join some of our remaining sessions, but a lot of our problem is that we have a lot of ideas, but not enough time to do all of the logistics. So if you are not working with your consulate, which doesn't work for all of us, unfortunately, New Orleans is very far from anyone, but if you are near your consulate and you are not working with them, they're saying the magic words. They will help us with the lift and the logistics if we can bring our time and our expertise. So please, in the last minute that we have before we move on to our next session, let us know how our alumni can get in touch with you if they want to collaborate on something or their own consulate. Oh,
yes.
There you go, Matt.
Yeah, to connect with me and the Houston consulate, of course, we have the very standardized MOFA consulate page. You can click in every one of our consulates or embassy will have a JET program tab. Clicking there will link you right up to all the general information about the JET program, but at the bottom of the page, there is the contact address for your local JET coordinator. Yeah, if you email me with a kind of inquiry, anything like that, I would be happy to forward that on to, our diplomats in charge, our political section, economic section, our other cultural staffers. Our consulate is a pretty small operation. In fact, about 20 people altogether, including diplomats and local staff. But we are a very tight-knit group, and we're really ready to kind of take on the big variety of inquiries that we get and try to address them the best that we can. So yeah, always reach out directly. If you prefer phone calls, we do have classic landlines and everything ready. So please call in and we'd be happy to talk through things and try to get the ball rolling.
Very good. Matthew, Laura, thank you so much for your time. It's been really valuable just to kind of reground ourselves in what the consulates are doing and the ways that we can collaborate with them. We really appreciate your time. So round of applause, our little fake clapping from our audience today. And our next session, logistics, we are going without a break into our next session, which are going to be 3 split sessions. You have the opportunity to choose a separate session on diversity in the JET program. And Laura and Matthew, if any of these sound interesting to you, please feel free to join. So Valerie will be leading a session on diversity in the JET program. Adam will be leading a session regarding Chapter 101, which is discussing the prospect of creating a shared body of resources that all chapters can use for orientation and ongoing operations. I will be leading a session called Making the Case for JETAA, which is about creating a body of resources that we can use to recruit new members and leaders, a shared resource at the national level. So please go and pick the area that you would most be interested in. They will all be recorded so that you can watch any afterwards that you weren't able to see. Yeah, I see Becca in the chat. They're going to be recorded, so you can go back and scoop up anything that you weren't able to see before. All right, everybody have a great next session, and thank you again to Laura and Matthew.